My name is Sophia, and at this very moment, sitting across from the two women who once claimed to be family, I felt nothing but a glacial calm. The opulent boardroom, with its polished mahogany and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the sprawling New York skyline, usually felt like my domain. Today it was nothing more than a meticulously set stage for my public execution. Eleanor, my former mentor and the architect of my current predicament, steepled her perfectly manicured hands on the table. Her voice, usually a velvety purr, was as sharp and cold as a winter's blade. I watched her, my eyes betraying none of the storms brewing within me. Every word she uttered was carefully chosen, a deliberate dance around the truth. She spoke of realigning priorities and maximizing efficiency, corporate jargon designed to mask the raw act of betrayal. She even managed a faint, insincere smile. It was a thinly veiled dismissal, stripping me of every ounce of power I had painstakingly built, yet presented as a benevolent gift. Then came the punchline, delivered with an almost theatrical flourish. Olivia, sitting beside Eleanor, shifted in her seat, a triumphant smirk playing on her lips. She had been waiting for this moment, I knew. Her eyes, usually so calculating, now gleamed with barely contained glee. "Olivia," Eleanor announced, turning slightly towards her, "will be stepping into your role, effective immediately. The Andromeda Project. My legacy. The brainchild that had consumed my nights and weekends for the past 5 years. It was a project I had poured my very soul into, a vision I had nurtured from a mere concept into a tangible, groundbreaking initiative. To hear its name now, so casually reassigned, was like a physical blow. But I remained still, my expression unreadable. I had prepared for this. For months, I had seen the shadows gather, heard the whispers, felt the subtle shifts in allegiance. I knew they wanted to erase me, to pretend I had never existed, to claim my achievements as their own. Olivia's smirk widened, a silent victory dance. She adjusted the cuff of her expensive blazer, her confidence radiating through the room. She was practically vibrating with anticipation, eager to step into the shoes I had worn with such pride and dedication. The irony was bitter, almost poetic. Eleanor cleared her throat, signaling the finality of it all. "Your access will be revoked by noon, Sophia." The implication was clear. I was to be gone, swiftly and without incident. No goodbyes, no lingering farewells. Just a clean surgical cut. A knot tightened in my stomach, but I held it together. Years of training, of fighting, of surviving had taught me to control my emotions, to never show weakness to my adversaries. I simply nodded, a slow, deliberate movement. My gaze swept across the room, taking in the faces of the board members, some avoiding my eyes, others looking on with a detached curiosity. None offered a word of protest, not one. They were all complicit, either by action or by silence. I rose from my chair with a grace I didn't truly feel. My hand, almost instinctively, brushed against the smooth, cold surface of the conference table, where I had once presided, debated, and led countless meetings. It was a silent acknowledgement, a final touch, to a place that had been so much a part of my identity. The security guards, two hulking figures in dark suits, materialized instantly. Their presence was a stark reminder of the speed and precision with which I was being expunged. I walked towards the door, my head held high, my footsteps light and steady. Not a single word of protest, not a plea, not even a backward glance. I would not give them the satisfaction. As the heavy oak door swung shut behind me, I caught a final glimpse through the narrow gap. Eleanor was already at the gleaming whiteboard, marker in hand. My project. My legacy. They thought that was the end. They didn't know that I had just left them a farewell gift they would never forget. To truly understand that final satisfying moment, you need to understand the years that led up to it. I joined this company fresh out of business school, a young woman with more ambition than experience, and a burning desire to prove myself. I was Sophia, the one who didn't just meet expectations. I consistently shattered them. My early days were a blur of late nights and early mornings. I learned every facet of the business, from the ground up, fueled by lukewarm coffee, and an unwavering belief in my own vision. I lived and breathed code, strategy, and market analysis. Sleep was a luxury I rarely afforded, my passion the only fuel I needed. My first big win was Project Phoenix. It was a risky venture, dismissed by many as a pipe dream, but I saw its potential. My team and I worked tirelessly, transforming a bold concept into a market-disrupting product. Within 2 years, Project Phoenix alone boosted the company's annual revenue by a staggering 20% and captured an additional 15% of the market share. We followed that with the Horizon campaign, which not only won us multiple industry awards, including the coveted Golden Quill for innovation, but also cemented our brand's reputation as a trailblazer. I watched the numbers climb, the profits soar, and our competitors scramble to catch up. My vision was shaping the company's future, brick by brick. Eleanor, then a senior director, had initially been my strongest advocate. She saw the fire in me, the relentless drive, and she seemingly championed my rise. She mentored me, pushed me, and I believed celebrated my successes. But even then, I sometimes caught a glimpse of something else in her eyes, a calculating glint I couldn't quite decipher. Olivia arrived a few years into my tenure, a brilliant, ambitious woman with a sharp mind. She would often seek my advice, praising my strategic insights. I saw a younger version of myself in her, full of potential. I saw admiration, but beneath the surface, there was a subtle undercurrent of something darker, a quiet envy I was too absorbed to fully acknowledge. This company was a beautiful, brutal machine. It celebrated success, but only for a fleeting moment. It was a shark tank, a survival of the fittest mentality where yesterday's triumphs were quickly overshadowed by today's demands for more, for better, for faster. Innovation was not just encouraged, it was a hungry beast that demanded constant feeding. If you stopped, even for a moment, you were deemed obsolete. Your last big win was already ancient history, and there was always someone else, younger, hungrier, ready to step into your shoes. I thrived in that environment, driven by the desire to build, to create, to leave an indelible mark. I believed in my work, in my vision, and in the legacy I was forging. I was so consumed by the constant climb, by the intricate architecture of my ambition, that I missed the subtle shifts around me. My focus was entirely on the empire I was building, brick by painstaking brick. I was so engrossed in my work, in the relentless pursuit of growth, that I didn't realize the venomous snakes were already lurking in the shadows, ready to devour everything I had. The first cracks appeared subtly, like hairline fractures on a grand facade. My name, once prominently displayed on every crucial meeting invite, began to disappear. I found myself excluded from discussions that directly impacted projects I had initiated. Budgets I had meticulously planned were slashed without explanation, forcing me to compromise on core functionalities. I was being slowly, deliberately cut out of the loop. Then the whispers started. Eleanor, with her practiced smile, would subtly plant seeds of doubt in conversations, framing my dedication as inflexibility. Sophia is a visionary, but perhaps she's become a bit set in her ways, Eleanor would muse, always within earshot of someone who would carry the message. The narrative shifted. My strengths were twisted into weaknesses. My once stellar performance metrics, the indisputable proof of my value, were suddenly under intense scrutiny. Past successes were re-evaluated, and minor glitches, once brushed aside as part of the creative process, were now magnified into catastrophic failures. My annual performance reviews, which had consistently lauded my achievements, abruptly turned cold and critical, painting a picture of a declining performer. I confronted them in Eleanor's opulent office, Olivia sitting silently beside her. I laid out the facts, the decreasing project engagement, the blatant sabotage of my initiatives. Eleanor feigned concern, her blue eyes wide with false sympathy. Olivia, meanwhile, simply maintained a cool, unreadable expression, denying everything with a practiced ease, occasionally interjecting with subtle implications that I was imagining things. They twisted my words, questioned my perception, making me feel as though I was losing my grip on reality. The final blow came in the sterile, windowless confines of the HR office. My direct manager, a man I had mentored for years, sat opposite me, meticulously avoiding my gaze. Miss Davies, the HR representative, sat at the head of the table, her face devoid of emotion. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. There was no appeal, no negotiation, no mercy. I realized then, with a chilling clarity, that I had been completely and utterly ensnared. I stared at the termination letter, my years of dedication, my very legacy, reduced to a few sterile lines of legal jargon. A cold dread settled over me, but deep within, beneath the icy surface of shock, a relentless fire of vengeance ignited. They wanted me gone, but they had no idea I was about to give them a farewell gift they would never forget. The termination letter lay before me, a stark white rectangle that sought to erase years of my life. For a fleeting moment, a crushing despair threatened to swallow me whole, a darkness more profound than any I had ever known. But then, deep within that void, a familiar, relentless fire ignited. It wasn't just anger. It was a cold, calculated fury that sharpened my resolve. I was not a woman who accepted defeat. I was Sophia, and I would not just walk away. I would leave a mark so profound it would haunt them forever. Andromeda was my magnum opus, the culmination of countless sleepless nights, fueled by lukewarm coffee and an unwavering belief in my own vision. Every line of code, every architectural decision, every intricate detail of that massive undertaking bore my indelible signature. Eleanor and Olivia, for all their practiced smiles and grand pronouncements, understood only its superficial charm, not its complex, beating heart. They thought they could simply claim it, but they couldn't even begin to comprehend its depths. It was in that moment of chilling clarity that my plan was born. Not a personal vendetta, not a childish act of destruction, but a meticulous unraveling. I would create a gift for them, a Trojan horse nestled deep within Andromeda's core. Not a malicious virus, but a subtle, elegant flaw, a logic bomb that would not destroy, but would reveal. It would expose their utter incompetence, their lack of foresight, their pathetic grasp of the very system they were so desperate to claim as their own. My gift would be their downfall, orchestrated by their own hubris. My final days at the company became a blur of silent, intense activity. While they believed I was clearing my desk, I was meticulously weaving my farewell. Late into the night, I would remotely access the servers, my fingers dancing across the keyboard, adjusting code with surgical precision. A hidden subroutine here, a delayed trigger there, intertwined with essential functions of the Andromeda project. Nothing overtly destructive, nothing that would immediately flag their vigilant cybersecurity. My mechanisms were designed to activate slowly, subtly, only under specific future conditions. Conditions that Eleanor and Olivia, in their rush to claim my triumph, would inevitably trigger without a second thought. It would be untraceable, a phantom error waiting to manifest, a silent witness to their ineptitude. This wasn't just about revenge. This was about justice. This was Sophia protecting her legacy, her intellectual progeny, from being ravaged by those who lacked the vision, the understanding, and the sheer brilliance to maintain it. They wanted to steal my empire, to parade my creation as their own, but they didn't possess the intrinsic wisdom to truly command it. My gift would ensure that when it all inevitably unraveled, everyone would know precisely why. The seed was planted. An invisible line of code, waiting patiently for the perfect storm. When it germinated, it would unravel everything they had so desperately tried to seize from me. My last 2 weeks at the company became a meticulously choreographed performance. I moved through the opulent offices like a ghost, outwardly cooperative, internally a storm of calculated intent. I diligently attended every handover meeting, patiently explaining every nuance of my projects to Eleanor and Olivia, who sat opposite me with smug, expectant smiles. They believed I was simply passing on my knowledge, laying bare the inner workings of my creation for their taking. But with every file I transferred, every process I detailed, I was subtly weaving the final, intricate threads of my farewell gift. My fingers danced across the keyboard, adjusting code with a practiced elegance, ensuring the logic bomb was perfectly nestled, waiting for its moment to awaken. Eleanor would occasionally drop by my office, her tone saccharine. "Sophia, darling, are you quite all right?" I would offer a bland, reassuring smile, nodding as if accepting her false sympathy. Olivia, ever the predator, observed me with thinly veiled triumph, asking pointed questions about project dependencies. I answered them all, providing precisely what they needed to think they had everything, while carefully omitting the crucial, hidden details that made the Andromeda project truly mine. The trigger for my gift wasn't a date on a calendar, but a series of specific actions, milestones they were desperate to achieve to claim full ownership of my legacy. It was an elegant trap, designed to spring only when they, in their overconfident rush, activated the very systems they believed they had completely mastered. The more they pushed to implement the project under their leadership, the closer they would come to unraveling it all. Beneath my calm facade, a tempest raged. There was a flicker of sadness for the beautiful creation I was forced to leave, a pang of grief for the future I had envisioned here. But far stronger was the cold, unwavering certainty of my purpose, a quiet resolve that thrummed through my veins. This wasn't just revenge. It was an act of preservation, a testament to the fact that my legacy could not simply be stolen and claimed by lesser minds. On my final day, I cleared my desk of the last few personal items, each movement deliberate. I paused at the threshold of my once vibrant office, taking a long, silent look at the skyline of New York City sprawling beyond the glass. No one was there to say goodbye. There were no emotional farewells, no lingering glances, just a profound, chilling silence. As the office door closed behind me, I knew one thing. The show had just begun, and I had the best seat in the house to watch. A few months passed. I rebuilt my life quietly, a new empire forming in a smaller office, but my gaze often drifted back to the company I'd been ejected from. Industry whispers, business journals, and secret emails from former colleagues painted a clear picture. Eleanor and Olivia were thriving. They basked in Andromeda's glory, presenting it as their brainchild, their strategic masterstroke. Their arrogant smiles filled executive meetings, self-congratulatory speeches dominated industry events. They believed they'd pulled off the perfect heist, luxuriating in my stolen spotlight. Then, the first tremor. An anonymous tip, an internal memo detailing unsuspected data inconsistencies within the Andromeda project. It was dismissed as a minor bug. I just smiled. My gift had begun its subtle work. Weeks later, the whispers grew louder. A critical client presentation, spearheaded by Eleanor herself, went awry. Key performance metrics on screen spiraled into nonsensical figures. But I knew. My logic bomb, delicately placed, was unraveling their confidence, exposing the void beneath their polished facade. The real showstopper came during the quarterly board meeting. Marcus, a former colleague still discreetly on my side, reported it all. Eleanor and Olivia, presenting Andromeda's achievements with dazzling slides and fabricated growth, watched as Olivia clicked to display the core source code. Instead of my clean, efficient lines, gibberish cascaded, interspersed with fragmented data and odd, poetic phrases. Then, stark and unmistakable across the bottom. A legacy cannot be stolen, it can only be earned. A gasp ripped through the boardroom. Eleanor's face drained. Olivia frantically stabbed at the keyboard, but the corrupted code persisted, mocking their pretense. The more they tried to cover it up, the worse it became. My gift wasn't a single incident, it was a systemic unraveling. The data inconsistencies propagated, creating cascading failures across Andromeda's modules. Financial reports showed inexplicable discrepancies. Client accounts became intermittently inaccessible. The elegant architecture I'd perfected now revealed fatal flaws. Flaws introduced only by those who truly didn't understand its heart. Eleanor and Olivia's frantic efforts only dug them deeper. Millions spent on emergency patches, external consultants. Every fix triggered another, more profound issue. They were chasing shadows, unable to comprehend the intricate web I had woven. Their incompetence became glaringly obvious. From my quiet office, I watched. I devoured industry news, read between the lines, and received encrypted messages. Each report of their struggle, each plummeting stock value, each client defection was a sweet melody. Sophia, they thought, was forgotten. But Sophia was orchestrating this grand silent symphony. My old company's stock nosedived, shedding billions. For the first time in an eternity, a genuine, unburdened smile touched my lips. The show had just begun. The curtain was rising on their epic failure. But my story was far from over. As the office door closed behind me, I knew one thing. The show had just begun, and I had the best seat in the house to watch. The unraveling began subtly, exactly as I had planned. For a few glorious weeks, Eleanor and Olivia basked in the reflected glow of Andromeda's initial launch. They gave interviews, accepted accolades, and strutted through the halls, as if they had single-handedly conjured the project from thin air. I watched from afar, a phantom in the corporate machine, observing their triumphant charade. But then the first tremors started. Little glitches, barely perceptible at first, began to surface within Andromeda. A data discrepancy here, a processing lag there. Nothing catastrophic, just enough to cause a ripple of confusion. They dismissed them as minor bugs, growing pains of a complex system. They poured more resources into optimizing it, blind to the fact that their very attempts to fix what wasn't broken were accelerating its decay. My logic bomb, a silent masterpiece, was slowly, meticulously dismantling their illusion of control. Then came the bigger issues. Critical reports failed to generate, client data became corrupted, and the seamless integration they had boasted about crumbled into a fragmented mess. Panic set in. Eleanor's face, once perpetually smug, was now a mask of frantic concern. Olivia, usually so composed, barked orders down the phone, her voice laced with desperation. They called in external consultants, teams of engineers, but no one could trace the root cause. The flaw was too deeply embedded, too elegantly designed to look like an inherent system failure rather than a deliberate act. It was untraceable, a testament to my skill. The headlines started to change. Andromeda project plagued by unexplained glitches, one article read. The financial and reputational damage was catastrophic. Clients pulled out, investors grew wary. The company's stock plummeted. It was an indirect, grudging admission that the original vision, my vision, was crucial, and without its true architect, it was destined to fail. Eleanor and Olivia, my usurpers, quickly became scapegoats. The whispers of their incompetence grew into a roar. Their careers, built on ambition and deceit, lay in ruins. They tried to erase Sophia, but instead, they erased themselves. Now, years later, I sit in my own office, high above the bustling streets of a city I now call entirely my own. The morning sun streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating a polished mahogany desk, a stack of blueprints for my latest venture, and a steaming cup of Earl Grey. I am Sophia. I built this, brick by brick, code by code, on my own terms. My hair, still a natural cascade of golden waves, catches the light. My blue eyes, perhaps a little wiser, still hold that same fierce determination. I gaze out at the sprawling cityscape, a silent testament to ambition and dreams. I feel a profound sense of peace, a quiet triumph that resonates deep within my soul. I harbor no regrets for what I did. It was not mere revenge. It was a necessary act of reclamation. It was a harsh, undeniable lesson delivered to those who believed they could steal a legacy and claim it as their own. They learned, the hard way, that some things cannot be simply taken, especially when the very essence of creation is woven into the fabric of its architect. My journey taught me that true legacy is not a tangible thing you can lock away in a vault or erase from a project plan. It is an imprint of your mind, your heart, your unwavering dedication. It persists. It endures. And ultimately, integrity, even when it must manifest through unconventional means, will always find a way to prevail. If you have ever felt betrayed, if your hard work has been stolen, or if your voice has been silenced, Remember this: your legacy is yours alone. Find your own way to make it heard. Share your story in the comments below. Let your triumphs inspire others. And if you enjoyed my story, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel for more tales of resilience and unexpected justice. Thank you for listening.